Hello and welcome, everyone. Hey, this is the 17th time as a charm. We'll see. Hopefully, we're going to try and get this thing going again. Scott and I have seriously been working on this for the past hour and 15 minutes. But with that being said, thank you very much for checking us out here on the pilot episode of the – it's doing it again. Let's try it. Let's see. We're trying to figure out how to do a YouTube sports show is kind of the concept of this. It's been out there. We're trying to figure out how to get, both of us on here, which apparently is becoming quite the, quite the issue. Let's see now. Is this Scott? Shoot me a message and tell me what you're seeing here, because I'm struggling to kind of get what's going on, because I'm trying to add you. Let's see. Let's try and add you again here. Let's see. Okay. I've invited him like four. There we go.
Mr. Asbrock, good evening, sir.
Hot damn, dude. Hot damn. We are, I don't know what happened. See, 47 time was a charm. It was just a matter of time before we got this. So, man.
Well, we've been practicing for an hour, so it's about time something went our way.
Well, you know what? Like I said,
you did a hell of a job by yourself for 10 minutes.
Well, you know what? Now it's lost in the archives. Now, people will never know how good I did. So, well, now that we are actually now together here on this, I want to, like I said, I want to thank you guys for, for checking out the show here. This is the pilot episode of the Chris and Scott Sports Show. We've got a couple different names. We've got the Gospel According to Chris and Scott. It's all out there. So, make sure you check out the blog, the Feel the Impact Sports blog, which is where you would know me from. I'm the main guy with the FTI Sports blog, ftisports.blogspot.com. Also an analyst with Page2Sports. Scott, you, my friend, are the head hockey coach at Miami University for the women's program, national champion women's program. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, you're welcome.
I am, yes.
as I love he's got the little cup with
well, and I'm moonlighting as a sportscaster now, so we'll see how this goes.
Hey, you know what? The funny thing is, we've known each other for what? Probably, my God.
13 years now, Chris.
13?
12, 13 years, yep.
Yeah, see? So we kind of hit off, we met each other, back in NKU, Northern Kentucky University. We actually, it was fate that day that we met in gym class.
We don't have to get into all this backlash story.
Well, no, I mean, we're just kind of funny.
People, they don't care that much.
Well, okay. I was just trying to kind of give a background, because the only way they would know you is from the Coach Scott Hicks show that we have not done this season. It's been kind of tough schedule-wise, but overall, that's where they would know you from. But again, this is something that we've been wanting to do. Finally, you reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's get it going." So glad we did. So with that being said, here we are. We're live, man. We are live on YouTube.
An hour late, but we're still here.
we The funny thing is, when you said that, you sent me that text today, and you're like, "You want to do a dummy episode?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." I think this is going to be
dummies, did you?
Well, I didn't. I thought it was going to be much easier than what this was. I didn't think this was going to be an absolute train wreck and take an hour and a half for us to get this thing live. I mean, I had 17 different live episodes on my YouTube page, but I mean,
I watched one of them, so it was interesting. I'm still wondering what we're going to do about intro music, because there's no lead in, and it's just see your ugly mug, and we got to go with it.
I know.
As I'm watching Drew Brees throw his 37th touchdown pass in the weekend at halftime of the Monday Night Football game, they have more music than we do.
Well, they're ESPN, so they're the worldwide leader in sports. We are two morons. I'm sitting at a kitchen table. You're in a hotel room. We have no idea what we're doing.
Well, that's where our fans come in.
Speaking of that, actually, I can arrange that up here, and we can look at a fan.
Oh, well.
That's for you, Scott. That's from earlier. Yeah.
One baby step at a time.
Hey, you know what? Like I said, we weren't going to jump into this and have, full-blown, production. That's just not how we operate. We operate we operate like a gong show is kind of what it comes down to. We do a pretty good job of that. We always have and always will.
We're number one in that aspect.
You got that right. You definitely got that right. Well, let's kind of jump into to talking some sports. For many of us, I would have to say we're Bengals fans, and right now one of the 4 remaining unbeaten teams. What would you? I mean, so far early on in the season, we're 7 games in right now. The Bengals they're undefeated for the first time on their franchise history at 7-0. Last time they were 6-0 was the '88 season when they won won the AFC Championship and made it to the Super Bowl, only to have their hopes and dreams dashed by Joe Montana, who ruined my childhood back in the day. So, with that being said,
the other time the Bengals started 6-0, who they lost to and when? It's happened twice.
Yeah.
Who would win?
Oh, wasn't it in the 70s?
Yeah, but who beat them?
Oh, I don't know. Pittsburgh
in the AFC divisional game.
Was that okay? I was going to say it was. I don't remember what year in the 70s, but I knew that it was. Yeah, I knew it was back then. I thought it was Pittsburgh. I thought I heard it was Pittsburgh, but I wasn't sure. But overall, what's your assessment on the Bengals so far? Because I preview every game on the blog. Looking ahead to each game and kind of break down. Each one of the offense, defense, special teams, coaching, which team has the advantage. Obviously, with this being our first show, 7 weeks in or 8 weeks into the season, what's your assessment so far on the Bengals? And kind of what are your thoughts so far?
Well, I think the good thing is you win a game yesterday you had no business winning, and good teams find ways to do that. When you don't play your best and you can come out with a victory, I think that's a positive sign all along. And Andy Dalton's exceeded expectations, in my opinion. We've had those conversations on how I think his performance has been in the past. But I think this team is finally playing with a chip on the shoulder that they actually have needed for a couple of years. But I fall in line with everyone else. It doesn't really matter what they do right now. They've done it before. Show me something in January, and then we could talk. It's nice that they're 7-0, but they won the division how many times? 5, right? 4 or 5 times.
See, but that's where I have.
Hey,
it's. But see, but that's where I have the issue with you on this, though. Like, okay, yeah, they've done that, but you know what? This team seems to be different than in years past. Enjoy the ride, man. Like, don't.
I am. I was screaming at the TV as loud as you can. The neighbors heard me yesterday. I'm enjoying it. I think it's a blast. But at the same time, we've been here before. And I
understand that, but you have to enjoy the ride instead of thinking, "Oh, well, let me see it in January." It's not January. We're in November. We're November 2nd right now, man. Like, that's where I'm coming into is saying, enjoy what we've got right now. And this team's been fun to watch. Like you said, they won a game yesterday. They had no business winning. So
yesterday was not fun.
No, well, yesterday.
But it's being expected coming off a bye week in a big emotional divisional game on the road with a team that's desperate. The Pittsburgh was desperate. They needed that game yesterday, and the Bengals, they looked nervous at the start of the game. They looked off. They looked like they had a week off, and the positives away from it is they found a way to win, and that's what good teams do.
Exactly.
Are they a great team? Are they a great team? That's yet to be determined. But it's fun to watch them. Have these fourth quarter comebacks. Because usually we're used to seeing them blow fourth quarter leads. So it's nice to finally be on the other end of that for once.
Well, that's so true. And one thing I do like, and I put a lot of and I think I wrote it in my recap of the game on the blog, was the fact that going out of the bye week, the Bengals were 4-7-1 under Marvin Lewis. That's an atrocious number. You can't have that. And to me, that's on coaching. Like, you have to have your guys ready to play. And I know that's something that you and I we've discussed numerous times is the whole Marvin Lewis factor. And, exactly what, it's kind of like, well, we know our feelings on Marvin Lewis. This year it seems different. I was talking to my mom actually on my way home from work today. She's like, he seems different. He seems like he's much happier and enjoying things a little more than in years past. This team has a completely different vibe this year. And it's, we've seen them we've seen them in years past where they've found ways to blow that game yesterday. That's not what happened yesterday. That game, when it was 10-6, I still didn't feel that the game was over. Even though Dalton, poor Andy Dalton was running for his life yesterday. Offensive line picked the worst time to play their worst game. But you know what? They fought through it, and they made adjustments, and they came out and won that game. That first drive when Ben Roethlisberger drove him down the field, I looked back and I was like, ruh-roh. But then you know what? Hey, defense hasn't played. If you look at the numbers, the defense hasn't played – based off numbers alone, they haven't played that well. But that eye test, you know what? That's a whole different ballgame. They're making plays, and that's what they did yesterday. I mean, well, there was the one play where Ben escaped the sack, and he stared. He had it seemed like 4 hours to find a receiver, and he's running down the sideline, pointing it out. Sean Williams jumps around, picks it off. That's the kind of play.
That was one of the best interceptions I've ever seen in my life.
That was fantastic.
How he caught that ball, Chris, I still don't know. He was behind the receiver when the ball got there. It was remarkable how he was able to get two hands on that and not let it move. I agree 100%. And the Bengals did everything they could yesterday to try to give that game away. With 9 penalties for over 100 yards, poor decisions.
It was 9 penalties for 94 or 10 penalties for 94 yards. So
you get a field goal block that puts you in a pretty tough spot late in the game, and it was blocked because you took a false start penalty and pushed you back 5 yards, and you had to kick lower. So you offensively, there's too many false starts, too many illegal motions, too many careless mistakes on offense. That you can get on Dalton for the interception in the red zone. He's trying to force him to make a play.
That was his fault. Yeah, I mean, I can't defend it.
Pass, but at the same time, he's trying to score a touchdown late in the game because he feels like he has to. But if you don't get your kick blocked earlier in the game, you don't have to go for the touchdown there. You have a chance to kick a field goal and win the game. So now I think those mistakes will get cleaned up. I think that was uncharacteristic for him, and I think they'll be fine moving forward. Thursday's a big game because you get through Thursday, you have 10 days off.
Exactly. And so when you have that mini bye week, which is really, really nice. The thing that does kind of concern me, and actually, you know what? In looking back at it, it's basically a year ago to the day of when Cleveland, throttled them 24-3 in Cincinnati. And believe me, that game was – when I was sitting in that game, it was awful. I mean, I was miserable that game.
I was on a flight to Denver, and I was very happy I was able to miss that game.
Yeah, you were in good shape there. But I don't see that happening. And I was talking to a coworker of mine, because the news just came out today that they flexed the Cardinals game to the 8:30 time slot. It's going to be national TV. So it's 3 straight weeks now the Bengals are going to be on prime time. I see them. They're at home, national TV, and like I said, that the pressure it's much different now than what it has felt different than the past.
Well, so, I think this is another hurdle. They've been a horrible primetime team. And
definitely. Oh yeah, no doubt.
They've had a losing record coming out of bye weeks, and this is just another monkey they have to get off their back, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I keep saying they need to decline every primetime game they get because they're god awful at them. But we'll see what they're made of. I mean, it's one of those things where if the division now, everybody's fired. Everybody, it's
gone.
I think they're
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's almost they can't lose a division now. So it's somewhat of a free roll the rest of the way out, but there's still hurdles to overcome.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And that's the thing is, if you look at, like I said, I keep saying this season feels different. That, they struggled on the West Coast. They go out to Oakland and win that game. The game against Seattle, which we left early. I'm going to admit it right now. We left early. And I blame that on my wife because I'm superstitious. She'd worn her jersey every week. So my kids, and she decided not to wear it that day. And I looked at her and I said, okay, we got a problem here. Her response was, oh, it's okay. We'll be fine. Get down there. Oh, we weren't fine at all. And then we left right after the fourth quarter, right at the beginning of the fourth quarter. I believe it was when Marvin Jones caught that pass, pretty far down in the Seattle territory. And we left after they switched possessions. And then you know what? As soon as we leave, we hear the roar of the crowd, and they had scored a touchdown. We're on the drive home, and I looked down and I said, "They're going to freaking win this game." Sure enough, they did. It's things like that, like. That game, there was no way a previous Bengals team. I don't care. Okay, maybe the 2005 team would have won that game because that was, to me, they were a legit Super Bowl contender that year. But with Andy Dalton at the helm, they would have never won that game in the past. But, this, like I said, it feels different. Things are breaking their way. You're 7-0 or you're 6-0 going into the bye week. You're healthy. You come out 7-0. You've never been 7-0 in your history. So things like that, that's the best part, and that's what I'm feeling pretty comfortable because if you look on the horizon here, and I was, like I said, I was telling my coworker, I truly believe that the Cardinals game in 3 weeks is going to be their first loss. With it being on the road. I think that they're going to roll through Cleveland. It may not be score-wise because it's an AFC North game. You're not going to have a blowout in the AFC North. And then the Texans are atrocious. But, you never know. It's Monday Night Football. But then again, you head to Arizona. I believe it's the 22nd, I believe is the day. But that's that.
Carson's going to be inspired in that game. That's what you got to worry about. He's revitalized his career out there, and
good for him. Good for him, by the way.
It worked out for both parties. The Bengals ended up getting Dalton, and Dalton's been in the playoffs 4 straight years. So would that have happened with Carson? Maybe, maybe not. You never know. But he's having a rejuvenation of his career, and that's good for him. And the Bengals are in a good spot. It'll be a fun test because it's one of the defenses that are kind of smash mouth and something the Bengals really haven't seen yet. So it'd be an interesting test. I can see the Bengals blowing the Browns out on Thursday. I hate to be honest with you. Browns, they just gave up 40 points to Arizona this past week. Blew a 14-point lead in the first quarter. So, they're getting scored on pretty pace. We may see Manziel in this game. So, it's going to be interesting. I would expect the Bengals to be for sure.
Well, what's kind of impressed me so far this season is the fact that the Bengals have really they've done this against teams, against solid defenses for the most part. Seattle is what they are. They're one of the best defenses that we've seen in recent memory. Buffalo, anytime you got a Rex Ryan defense, they're going to be good. They're going to throw different stuff at you. They pass that test. The Kansas City Chiefs, another great defense. We passed that test. Baltimore, they're going to punch you in the mouth because it's an AFC North game. Pittsburgh, the same thing. Pittsburgh came out yesterday, and they were able to shut down Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard, and they were able to pin their ears back and put the pressure on Andy Dalton, causing him to run for his life. But we passed that test. It was ugly, and believe me, it was an ugly game. That was one of the ugliest football games you're going to watch. But we passed that test. So now you got another.
You got to win those games.
Exactly. Good teams find ways to win that game. The one game I am really concerned about, especially after watching last night, the Denver game on Monday Night Football, because that defense is wow. And I'm partially a Broncos fan, but my goodness, that was. They made Aaron Rodgers look ridiculous yesterday. So, but then that's down the road. That's far down the road. So that's the good part about it. We got to focus Thursday night.
The big thing for that, though, Chris, is the fact that you're going to get that and whether that's going to for the Bengals. Peyton Manning, he does not play well in cold weather, and if you can limit him and you could shut down the running game, I mean they're somewhat limited on offense. Last night was, I think, not the norm for them this year, and I don't expect that kind of explosive plays from Peyton Manning by the time they get to that Bengals game. Yeah,
that's very, very true. And right now, I mean, if you look at how would you body of work here. Let's kind of transition to like I said, they're one of the 4 remaining unbeaten teams. Could be 3 depending on what happens in the Monday night game right now. Right now it's looking like Carolina's going to roll through. I'm not watching the game right now, but I know you have it on.
It's ugly. It's ugly. Oh, God. It's raining. Andrew Luck, and I think this is a topic we can touch on. It's evident that he's not 100%. And, he's making some plays. And, yes, it's raining and it's hard to pass in, but, it's somewhat of his decision-making. He threw an interception in the first drive tonight that it was just a poor decision. And for somebody that's as smart as he is, I think he's forcing things a little too much. And I tell you, if they lose the next 2 weeks, you got to start thinking about shutting them down.
Question. Now, you're in Indiana, so you get you married into a Colts family. God bless you.
I do.
Question. Do you think Andrew Luck is overrated?
No, not at all. I think the talent around him is overrated. No, I think their offensive line is atrocious. And I think signing a running back that's in the last legs of his career and signing a wide receiver that's clearly on the downward side of his career, you're one-dimensional. Dontre Moncrief is solid, but you have T.Y. Hilton, and that's really your only weapon. And you have an offensive line that has trouble passing. And Mathis hasn't come back. And, the top 4 quarterbacks, I think 2 weeks ago, all 4 were out. So you're signing guys off the street to start on a Monday night game in a big spot. And it's just tough to win when you're doing that. So they're banged up defensively, and offensively, their line just isn't blocking anybody. And so you have your franchise quarterback, and this is you saw this with Peyton Manning. The same thing. He's running for his life, and you're not giving him protection, and you get your $1 million quarterback beat up, and now he's hurt, and your season's going to hell in a handbasket really quick.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, and I don't care what quarterback is under center in the shotgun. If you don't give them any time, it's very simple. They're going to look, for example, like I said last night with Aaron Rodgers, that Denver defense, if Aaron Rodgers wasn't a mobile quarterback, because he's athletic, he would have been sacked, dozens of times it seemed like. That's the kind of pressure that they can put on you, that any defensive line, they can make any quarterback, it doesn't matter who they are, they can make them look, insanely human. And that's how I was kind of figuring, just kind of seeing what you were thinking with the whole Andrew Luck thing. I think he's a good quarterback. It's just things just aren't – they're just not, they're not bouncing the way of the Colts this year. It's just, they've got too many issues, it seems like. And, has it caught up with them? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But it's
you can't say he's overrated when he takes the team that he did last year, the AFC Championship game, and the year before that wins a playoff game at Baltimore in his first year with the team that went essentially the same team the year before. So, he's done a lot of things with some mediocre football teams. And it's just this year they tried to – they were cheap, let's be honest. You signed Frank Gore and Andre Johnson, and two guys that haven't produced the last couple of years, and other teams didn't want. And you're trying to say you're a Super Bowl contender, and you're signing guys that other teams – and let's be frank, it's not like Houston and San Francisco are solid teams this year. So if these two guys were coming from teams that didn't want them, that are the bottom of the barrel, what are you doing if you're Indianapolis signing these guys thinking they're going to be difference makers?
That's very, very true. I mean, now, do you think, and I mean, obviously you have to win in the playoffs, but do you think it could be the fact that the Colts were in, I mean, AFC South is an atrocious division. It's brutal.
Oh, you're going to see somebody win that division, I'm telling you. It's going to be worse than the NFC South a couple 2 years ago.
It's awful. I know that's what I'm saying. Like with the Colts, I mean, my God, their record was so gaudy because of playing. You play 6 games in that division. Do you think that's a lot of it? Is okay, you're getting that confidence because you're winning. Yeah, I mean, do you see? I mean, could that be? Could that play into it as well? I mean, to where they're getting that confidence and they think they can beat most of these teams. Which, yeah, I mean, if in a first round game, yeah, you can make it there, and and win a game. Because you do have talent. You obviously have to have talent, but is that it, or would you say no? I mean, is it?
Oh, it's atrocious. I mean, I saw the stat today that division playing against teams outside the division is 4-14. That's awful. I mean, you're telling me if the Colts lose tonight that the Houston Texans are going to be in tie for first place, and they've been routed by every team outside that division. It's not a good division, and it's embarrassing. I don't know how you can gain confidence saying, "Well, we're in first place in the division at 3-5." Yeah,
that's not what I'm saying. But I mean, my thing is like when the Colts were like 11-5, where they rolled through the division. That's where I'm getting at. Not at 3-5 or anything like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it didn't do them any good then. I mean, how many Super Bowls and playoff games did Peyton Manning win in Indianapolis? And there was times where they were 14-0. I think 3 times they ended up 14-0, and couldn't get to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, but I mean, to me that's different though. I mean, Peyton Manning.
Hell, it doesn't matter how you roll through your division. If you don't get it done in the playoffs, you don't get it done in the playoffs. That's what this sport's all about.
Well, I get that. I mean,
so obviously they're not getting that. They're not getting enough confidence if they're rolling through the division and then getting smoked in the playoffs. I mean, the last couple of years they've actually had to grind it out, and they beat some pretty good football teams on the stretch and home field advantage. But chip on the shoulder going to Baltimore, they snuck in as a wild card. But what they have on the field this year is not what Jim Irsay promised the fans of Indianapolis when they drafted Andrew Luck. I think that's the bigger problem. Is he kept saying it's going to be different, it's going to be different, we're going to do things differently than we did with Peyton Manning, and frankly, it's worse. And I don't know if Gregson's got to go or Irsay backs out or something, but obviously the relationship with Chuck Pagano is on the rocks as it is. Offering him the contract they did is pretty disrespectful to a guy for everything he's been through and everything he's done for this franchise post Peyton Manning. It's a slap in the face to give him a 1-year deal at the same price point. So I would expect him to be gone after this year, and then you're just gonna start all over again. I don't know who you're gonna get that's better than he is, but for Indianapolis when you got a franchise quarterback getting into his prime.
I mean, it's a never-ending cycle. It seems like unless you do something to get out of it, then what? It's tough. I mean, you gotta put in your hard work to get out of that situation. And I mean, it starts with ownership. And I look back at the Bengals, and they were in that situation where they were. I mean, my God, for the early 2000s. Oh, it was atrocious. I mean, the 90s and early 2000s were dark times for the Bengals franchise. And you know what? It finally came down to the fact that, Mike Brown and Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn and Troy Blackburn, they were like, you know what? This is what we're gonna put it in the hands of some football people, and we're not going to be in the way as much. And look what's happened. I mean, when you let the coaches coach and you put good people around them and you give them the resources they need, this is what happens.
Well, Mike Brown said he's enjoying things a lot more in his role now than he was as the GM and making the day-to-day decisions.
Exactly.
Because he had more scrutiny. I mean, he was making poor decisions.
Oh, yeah. Because he's not a football guy.
But here's the problem is Marvin Lewis has done less than Chuck Pagano. So how Jim Irsay can't look at Chuck Pagano and say, listen, you got to make the decisions. It's your team. Here's a long-term deal. Let's ride this thing together. You got to start questioning the decision-making of leadership. And if I'm a free agent and they're doing that to head coach has done what he's done for that franchise, why do you want to go there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, it always sounds like it's, it'd be great to go, to play with Andrew Luck. But if you look at the entire picture, the broad spectrum, it's not that great, and that's where, I mean, you really, when it comes to free agency, and that's where you have to build it through the draft, because that's how it was originally with the Bengals is nobody wanted to come here and play. But look what they did through the draft. They built themselves up through the draft, and look at them now. And that now it becomes more attractive for people to come and play here. That's just, that's what's going to have to happen in Indy. And, thank God I'm not a Colts fan. I know I got family who are Colts fans. Thank God I'm not one.
It starts with the offensive line did last year with their offensive line, and even the Bengals to some extent, building it through the drafts and getting guys that can protect the quarterback. Offensive linemen love running plays because you can block downhill. You're not on your heels. You're on your toes.
Exactly.
And you're getting beat off the ball. I mean, I'm just watching this play with Bradshaw. They're trying to they're not running between the tackles because they're getting beat off the ball, and they try to run to the sidelines and they're not quick enough to get there. And linebackers are beating, and they're getting hit 7 yards off the line of scrimmage. If you can't block anybody, and the coaching staff doesn't trust you enough to run between the tackles to get to the outside, you have problems. And that's where they're at. The running game can't get anything going between the tackles, and you can't protect it. It's completely different when you look at Cam Newton and how he can command the offense and control the offense in the game to some extent than what Andrew Luck's doing right now. And some of it's confidence, some of it's health, but it's also the people you have around you. And Colby Fleener is not the option that Greg Olsen is.
Oh, he's not? Now we're like, not a big comparison.
Do we have a breaking news sound effect yet?
Dun, 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 dun. That work? It just came to mind. You mean to tell me you're
not to backtrack, but I was looking through the top defenses, and speaking of the Bengals and kind of their schedule coming up, they really statistically this year have not played against a lot of great defenses. Cleveland's 30th. They got them coming up. Baltimore's 27th, Pittsburgh's 26th, San Diego's 25th, Oakland's 20th. The only one of the top 10 they played is Seattle, who's number 5. Surprisingly, the Tennessee Titans are number 4 in total team defense. But the point of it is they haven't. Buffalo was 11, but they really haven't been tested outside of that Seattle game.
See, I would think they would. And I would say the Kansas City one they were. Because Kansas City, I mean, when you've got, when you look at some of the guys that Kansas City has on their defense, and see, that's where I'm kind of saying, like, with I was going to say kind of with Buffalo as well with Mario Williams, but the way Rex Ryan has used Mario Williams is kind of, it's mind-boggling. He's not using him the way he should.
Unrex-like.
What's that?
It's unrex-like.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're dropping Mario Williams in a coverage. Like, no, like Mario Williams, you let him pin his ears back and go. Yeah. Like that's all you got to do. I mean, that's like dropping, Carlos Dunlap in the coverage. No, you let him pin his ears back and go. That's just all you got to do. I mean, but that's why I would think that the Kansas City defense is. I mean, they're good. I mean, I know statistically. Like you said, it's not going to reflect as good as it, as in years past. It may be more of a reputation thing, but there's some really solid players on each of the defenses that the Bengals have faced who are difference makers. I guess is kind of where I'm leaning. So, granted, yeah, they may not have done it against, top units overall, but they've shut down guys who are clear difference makers and some of the top defensive players in the league. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I got you. I was taken aback by when I was looking at that. I was with you. Some of those defenses were better ranked than they were, but
I mean, it is kind of surprising. I mean, if you look at, Kansas City's defenses, they're not what they have been in years past. Buffalo with Rex Ryan, you thought they would be better than what they are. Baltimore, the injury to Terrell Suggs, completely different. It changed the whole dynamic with Haloti Ngata being gone as well. So there's some guys who are
so bad, Chris. I don't know how much of a difference Terrell Suggs would have made in the defense. Yeah, may have plugged up the run game a little bit, but those corners are so bad that all you got to do is start taking some shots, and they got to back off anyways.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But not having Haloti Ngata and then Terrell Suggs, having those two key pieces there being gone with Ngata free agency and then being out, is a whole different defensive dynamic. That's where I'm coming from.
And you look at some of these teams, Kansas City's played a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah.
So, for their defense to be ranked where it is, it's tough to really pin that on how good or bad they are. You got games against Denver, Green Bay, Cincinnati. Minnesota's having a great year.
Minnesota, where did they
come? Zimmer, he just has that knack.
He does.
That's out of his players.
You know what? Good for him. I am so happy for that guy. When he took the job in Minnesota, I was just kind of I thought it was a graveyard. I was I didn't think he had a chance. And he does. He's just that coach that you want to play for. You will play your best for that guy. When he was here, you saw it on Hard Knocks that they loved him. The players here loved Mike Zimmer.
It's amazing when you look at that opening game at San Francisco, how awful they looked and how great San Francisco looked. And those two shouldn't have gone more where they started and where they are now. Minnesota's won 5 of the last 6 and beating the Chargers, beating the Chiefs, Lions, Bears. Their schedule hasn't been too difficult. And it gets a little tougher with the Rams at Oakland, Packers, at Falcons, Seahawks, at Cardinals. So, the next 5 weeks are pretty brutal. So we'll see who they are and what they're made of in the next 5 weeks. But, kudos to them for getting that turned around. And anytime you have Adrian Peterson, it helps things. And they got a pretty good young core of wide receivers. Anytime Cordell Patterson is the odd man out and not getting any playing time, you're doing something right. And Stephon Diggs is the real deal.
That's saying something right there. That's true.
Also, they got a lot of talent and they're young. Teddy Bridgewater is kind of the quarterback we thought he might be, and it's nice. Teddy is playing well.
Well, let's transition to some college football real quick. We'll kind of touch that before we cut it loose here on the first show. It's been it's been quite the interesting college football season so far. You're a big Ohio State fan. I myself am not. But with that being said, let's kind of go. What are your thoughts on JT Barrett and how everything kind of played out there? Because I'm not going to come across the way I'm going to say this, but I was going to put on Facebook something about Ohio State football, the gift that keeps on giving. For example, for you Ohio State fans, they keep just, they win. So therefore it's great for you guys. But then then they do things like, the JT Barrett, the under the influence, DUI thing, gives people who truly hate on Ohio State that kind of ammunition. It's just that's just what you get with Ohio State.
There's so many kids making that mistake.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. But what it comes down to is the fact that
it's not right. Sadly, there's so many of these kids.
Man, see now, man, now you're breaking. Okay, you there? I was going to say you were breaking up a little bit.
You know, I mean, what makes it worse is he's supposed to be your leader. He's supposed to be the face of your program right now, and there's a sense of responsibility that comes with that he needs to be aware of. And you know, when you talk about the difference between him and Cardell being a maturity factor, this is a pretty immature thing.
It's not smart, man. Like,
he has to know better. You just got to know better. On your bye week, the microscope is so small on you. You just can't do stuff like that. And you can't tell me you didn't have anybody to drive you where you were going.
You're the starting quarterback at Ohio State. Come on. You could find anyone you want to drive you back wherever you need to go. And that's what's frustrating, is because I've been the one, like I said, I'm not an Ohio State fan. I respect the program immensely for what they've done. I said right from day one, JT Barrett needed to be the starter over Jones, Cardell Jones. I just thought that JT offered a lot more than what Cardell, what Cardell he offered. I thought JT should have been the starter right from day one. Then he gets his chance and then pulls this crap.
That's the problem with all this, is he got his opportunity. And the team was starting to finally click, and now you got more distractions. Now, the one caveat to this is Urban Meyer is pretty good at spinning this stuff.
He's good.
I would expect him to spin this in a way that will be positive for his football team. But at the same time, you put yourself in a really bad position, because if Cardell Jones comes out and lights the world on fire against Minnesota, how do you bench him again?
That's going to happen. That's the funny part. It's going to happen. He's going to come out there and absolutely torch Minnesota.
And I hope he does, because
I bet you do.
Well, but for him, I mean, his stock. Let's be honest, his draft stock is plummeted, and if he wants to save his NFL career, he needs to take care of it. But it's also, this is where you're going to see whether Cardell Jones, how he handles being benched and being resorted to the second class, how he comes back from that. And if he lays an egg, then we all know it was an anomaly what he did last year, and he isn't that type of player. But if he learns from it, which I would expect him to do, then JT Barrett just has to take the back seat, and it is what it is. And the thing is, Cardell Jones is going to leave after this year. JT Barrett has 2 more years of eligibility. So you learn from your mistake, you own it, and I hope he has, and I'm sure he has with his teammates. He's owned it this week. The one thing, I don't know if you've heard, but they pulled a scholarship for this semester.
I saw that too. I was kind of surprised about that. I mean,
well, but it's Urban sending people. The microscope was on him. Well, how is he going to handle this? The university and Dean Smith tried to take it out of his hands and say, well, it's university policy. This is what has to happen. But at the same time, is that enough? I mean,
should the suspension have been
examples of other schools seeing?
I mean, would you have suspended him more than one game?
No. Not for his first offense.
And I mean, because the issue is, everyone's, I was talking to one of my buddies at work. It's so easy to get a DUI now. I mean, you could go to B-Dubs right now, have a beer, leave there, and boom, get popped for a DUI. It's just the way it is. It's very easy. It comes down to the fact he's underage. Yeah. I mean, to me, I thought 2 games would have been suffice, and that would have been it. I would have been like, okay. I thought 2 games, that's what I immediately thought. 1 game, I get it. But then, pulling the scholarship for the semester, I think that's worse. Well, yeah.
I think 1 game suspension, and now you're $25,000 out of your pocket.
He'll sell some gear. He's good to go.
That's a pretty hefty punishment. He's got a bright future. But
hey, that's what your autograph's for, man. That's hey, ask Johnny Manziel.
Hey, only in the SEC. I think what Urban did was the 1-game suspension, but he wanted to send a message because that old adage of if this was a backup 4th-string lineman, would he do the same thing? And
yeah,
I would like to think he would. And I understand not spending the 2 games, and I think the loss of a scholarship is worse than the 2nd-game suspension. So I think he got hit pretty hard, and I think it was a good, clear message that Urban sent, and the kid's got a service punishment. We'll see what happens, and it's come to the meat of the schedule, and the first ranking comes out tomorrow night. I'd be interested to hear where you have it.
Okay, now, and that's actually that was the perfect transition. Thank you for helping transition into that. I was going to have you say – What's that?
I'm learning.
Hey, you're getting there, man. This is, first time on a podcast, your video pod. This is good, man. Well done. I'm proud of you. You're much better than what I give you credit for.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem. So
I usually am.
Well, there we go. I was going to ask you now let's see here. I mean, I was going to ask you your top 4 teams because, like you said, the rankings come out. I had posted, each week, myself and Jim Kim, he's my FTI Sports colleague. We look at, we look ahead to each week. And I'm trying to pull it up here real quick, but I had my rankings out to where, and I saw something. I think it was Heather Dinich on ESPN. She didn't have Ohio State in her top 4, which
that's embarrassing. I'm sorry. They may not play very good, but to not have them in your top 4 is embarrassing.
Well, originally, like when we first started doing the playoff rankings, I didn't because of the fact that the way they were playing. I put them in because after the game with JT Barrett when he let me see. I think this is the one right here. I had Ohio State number 4. So this is off of last week. I haven't done this week's yet, but I had Baylor number 1, Ohio State 4. So the 1-4 matchup. Then I had LSU facing TCU. Obviously, I'm going to change that up a little bit. Obviously this week because I think Clemson right now is the best team in college football. At least the way they're playing this week or heading into this week. How would your top 4 look now going into what is it, week 10 now of the college football? It's hard to believe it's already 10 weeks. But how does your top 4 look now going into week 10? And how would your playoff pairings look?
You could call it homer. Ohio State's got to be in your top 4. I think it's embarrassing to not have them in your top 4. And I don't see any way possible an undefeated defending national champion won't be in the top 4. They played a tougher schedule than Florida State had to this point last year, and Florida State.
I was just gonna say they've received the Florida State treatment so far. Is kind of what I was just gonna say that.
But Florida State looked a lot worse than Ohio State has most of this year.
Yeah.
Clemson's an interesting Clemson game, which is at home, hadn't played a soul. So
yeah,
I mean, you look at their game at Louisville. It's a 3-point victory, 2-point victory over Notre Dame. Georgia Tech was in that game with them. So was BC, and NC State had a lead from a lot of that game this past weekend. So Clemson's a strong team. LSU is number 1 in the country, in my opinion. You have a running back, Leonard Fournette.
Dude, that kid is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
There's nobody stopping that kid. I don't care if you're Joey Bosa or who the hell you are. That kid is dominant. And when you have the most dominant player in college football on a team that has performed very well this year, they're my number 1. I have Ohio State number 2. I would put Clemson in there at number 3, and I would have Michigan State at number 4. I'm not a Big 12 guy. I think you put Baylor and TCU up against anybody that can play halfway decent on defense, they're going to struggle. Anybody's going to put up points against them. If you're a top 10 team, you're going to put up points. I
know. I'm going to stop you on that.
Texas is putting up points against TCU, and Texas Tech should have won that game, by the way.
Well, I was going to say I'm going to stop because I think TCU's they've got a much better defense than Baylor does. But I think, and that's what's kind of frustrating about this. And you know what? I'll let you finish, then I'll transition to something else. Then go ahead. Sorry.
I even have Alabama at 5. I have TCU at 6 and Baylor at 7. I think a one-loss SEC. I think Alabama may be better than Michigan State. But I think it's hard to discount what Michigan State has done and finding some way to win that game against Michigan, which I still can't believe happened. But I'm not a believer in the Big 12 and what they can do. I mean, you look at their bowl record; it's not strong. You put them against teams that can play defense, they struggle. You know, when you have teams like Texas Tech putting up 50, 60 points on you, and it's embarrassing. You got to play.
Okay.
There's 3 facets to the game, and you can be as juggernaut of an offense as you want, but we've seen that with Oregon, and look what happened to Oregon when they faced a team that can play defense. They got shut down.
Totally agree. But okay, now I'm gonna go in here now with Michigan State. If you're gonna kind of go off of the fact that they haven't played that well this year, look at the teams that they barely beat. Central Michigan, Air Force they struggled with for a little bit. Purdue. I mean, they were in a battle with Purdue, and all these games were at home, mind you. You know, they struggled against Oregon. That was a good game overall. Oregon isn't what they were in the past, so I can't. To me, I've in my top 10 power rankings, I had Michigan State number 7 because they were undefeated. I had them ahead of Stanford, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma State, but I can't put them in my top 4 just simply because I think that there are, like I said, right now looking at it, there's 6 teams better than I mean, I've got 6 teams better than Michigan State. Because I think if they go into it, and I know that it happened last year when Michigan State played Baylor in the bowl game, that to me it changes. Well, it may change this year because with the injury for Baylor at quarterback, that could change things. But I mean, Trevor Boykin, if TCU takes on Michigan State, no doubt to me TCU beats Michigan State on a neutral field. That's just my. I think Boykin is. I think he's the second best player in the country behind Fournette because, I mean, Leonard Fournette, as we were discussing, the guy's a beast. But Trevor Boykin, I mean, I think he's right there and easily could win the Heisman Trophy, depending on what happens, obviously, with the rest of the season. But to me, personally, I think you have to have a Big 12 team in there. You can't shut them out of the 2 years in a row. But it all could change though because you know what?
I mean, the thing is, they all play each other. I mean,
I was just going to say that can all change because Oklahoma State's undefeated.
It's
this weekend. State's schedule. Technology is a mute point. But if say Baylor goes out there and dominates the rest of the schedule, how could you not put them in there? Defense or not, that's just the way it is. They went out there and they dominated these teams. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think you have to put them in. And that's where it comes down to. You have to have a conference championship game, which is what I was going to lead into.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to expand to 12 teams and get a conference championship game. To me, you just have to.
Or you change the rule and you eliminate that 12-team maximum.
Yeah.
I think my point is I think this is all going to play itself out. I don't think we find ourselves with a undefeated Baylor or TCU or Oklahoma State for that matter. I think they all beat each other up. I think Oklahoma State's going to knock one of them off, and I think it might be TCU this weekend, and I think Baylor gets in TCU. Oklahoma State, I think they're going to lose to Oklahoma. So, I think they all beat up, and this is when you think about it, this is actually pretty poor scheduling on the Big 12 standpoint. Where they
I was thinking that
they backload their schedules, and these teams don't have a chance to recover now. You're playing 3 ranked teams in the top 10 in your final 4 games.
It's unfair to most of these teams that they have to do that when you're playing Kansas, and it's awful to start off your season that way. It is. It's so backloaded. It makes it tough for them. It is. That's 100% on the Big 12, for doing it that way. But I mean,
the interesting aspect is going to be Notre Dame. If they win at Stanford Thanksgiving weekend, I could see a one-loss Notre Dame team getting in.
Notre Dame's in. If they went out, they're in. To me, plain and simple, they're in.
So that throws a wrench into things. It really does. I mean, you know, the winner of Ohio State and Michigan State is going to get in. I think LSU is going to run the table. I think they're going to get in. So you're going to have a Big Ten champ. You have LSU an SEC champ, and you have Notre Dame. And then it's a fight for that fourth spot. Clemson in the ACC or a Big 12 team, or one-loss Alabama, or there's any number of teams that could sneak in there. I tell you what, though, it's going to be an interesting and exciting race the last month here, and what actually happens, because a lot of these teams in the top 15 play each other. You're going to start getting a lot of big matchups, and that's what's great about the playoff. And I hope they expand 8 teams. I think it's needed to expand to 8 teams. I think it makes it more interesting. How you can have an 8-team playoff at 1AA in Division 2 and 3, and not in Division 1 makes no sense to me. I mean, the money they can make and the money they made off the college football playoff last year, why they wouldn't want to expand is mind-boggling. But I think we'll get there eventually. But I tell you, could you imagine an 8-team tournament right now with the top 8 that are in there?
Dude.
You have Ohio State versus Notre Dame in the first round, Baylor, Alabama in the first round, Clemson, Michigan State in the first round, LSU, TCU in the first. You're telling me you wouldn't pull ratings? It's just that is for an organization, the NCAA, in these power schools that are all money hungry, the dollar signs that are right there in those matchups. It's amazing that they don't want to do it.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
I mean, you have an undefeated Iowa sitting at number 10 in the country right now.
It's insane, man. It is insane. It's awesome. It's been a fun season so far, and it's only going to get better. I mean, that's the good part about it.
What do you do with Memphis? Memphis runs the table here.
What about Houston? To me, Houston's better than Memphis is. However, Memphis has that big win against Ole Miss. Well, yeah, I mean, that's my thing. I mean, how do you – the American Athletic Conference, man, and that's one thing I wrote in this last week's look ahead. The American Athletic Conference, that was my third point. I said, can the AAC continue to make noise nationally? Houston goes out there and shuts out Vanderbilt 34-0. Memphis, just whipped Tulane. And then Temple is in a battle with Notre Dame and loses with 2 minutes, and they easily could have won.
What a football game! By the way, that was an unbelievable football game.
It was a fantastic game. It's just the American Athletic. It's a great conference. I mean, it really. If you look at some of the teams in there, at Cincinnati, with that big win over Miami. I know it's not the old Miami, Hurricanes, but it's still a big win over, an ACC team. But if you look at, here it is right here. I wrote in there. I said Memphis. I said the AAC has wins against numerous teams in Power 5 conferences: Miami, Ole Miss, Louisville, Penn State, Kansas, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. Now, granted, a lot of those teams, they're brutal. Virginia Tech is down this year, Syracuse, but still, they're Power 5 conferences, they're Power 5 conference teams that the AAC goes out there and beats. Now you can add Vanderbilt to that list. That's an SEC team. So that's 2 SEC teams you've knocked off. 3 ACC teams. No, 4 ACC teams. Miami, Louisville. So, yeah. AAC, they're much better than people are giving them credit for. And it's going to be interesting to see what and how the committee looks at the AAC when Memphis and Houston play each other in a couple weeks. and if each team's able to run the table.
So what do you do with an undefeated Houston or Memphis? I mean, I think the winner of that game is going to be undefeated when it all's said and done. I mean, what do you do with an undefeated American Conference team with that resume? I mean, the thing is, Memphis's resume is better than Houston's. Houston may be a better team, but anytime
I agree.
That's a pretty big feather in your cap. Well, if Memphis is undefeated, I tell you, Chris, I don't know how you can leave them out of the playoff. I mean, I guess they would be in over one loss Notre Dame for me.
I would have to agree, because I think that if you matched up Notre Dame with either Houston or Memphis, to me, either one of those teams is beating Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like, I mean, Temple's a good team. I mean, if you look at what Temple's done this year, I mean, they go and they whip up on Penn State. They had the battle with UC, with Cincinnati, in a game that, I mean, in all reality, UC should have won. They just, Temple played Temple football. They punched UC in the mouth, and then like I said, then they do the same thing to Notre Dame, and damn, they lost that game by a couple points. And so, to me, I'm with you. I would have to agree that one of them, regardless, they have to be in one of the big New Year's Day bowl games if they're shut out of the playoff.
So not to change subjects, but I just got this alert coming across the screen here. The San Francisco 49ers have just benched Colin Kaepernick.
Wow. Really?
Really.
Whew. And then they traded Vernon Davis today to the Broncos.
You want to talk about somebody? You want to talk about somebody who's fallen from grace in the last 2 years?
Man,
I tell you, that's one organization that really, when we talk, it kind of bring back when we talked about the Colts and whatnot. You want to talk about an organization self-destructing. It's the San Francisco 49ers. They don't know how good they had it with Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, but you talk about a football coach that can get guys to buy in and get some work done.
I mean, look at what he's done with Michigan. I mean, in this short time. I mean, they're talented, but they're not. I mean, my God, they're not even remotely what they could be. And look what he's done with them. That's what Harbaugh can do. They, like you said, they don't know how good they had it, and they ran them out of town. And hey, it's biting them in the butt right now.
Sorry, not to. Andrew Luck just do another interception.
There we go.
There are two people currently at this football game who have propelled themselves from the third deck to hang a sign. The TV crew isn't showing what but they literally are harnessed in ropes and have propelled off the third deck to hang a sign in the corner of the stadium from the third deck. So they've just cleared out part of the stadium. The fire department's there. Obviously, those two will have a police escort to a nice cozy hardwood floor tonight. But yeah, two people propelling. How do you get, in this day and age, Chris? How do you get ropes and gear like that into a stadium when you got to get patted down?
I'm gonna try that Thursday night when I go down to Paul Brown Stadium.
I wouldn't advise it.
Well, I don't. I wouldn't know. I don't plan on ever knowing it. So I mean, we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I just got an alert on my phone. 2 protesters dangle from stadium overhang. Yeah. Awesome. That'll be on SportsCenter.
Yeah, that, and now you have Blaine Gabbert as a starting quarterback for San Francisco, and Andrew Luck those 2 picks, and Carolina is marching to put this game away. all this when Cam Newton fumbled on the 3-yard line to kind of give Indianapolis hope. It's kind of been one of those games. But yeah, you get that alert, and then you see two people dangling from the third deck. It's
it's interesting. I like that. It's yeah, I got trending video. I'm going to check that out after we.
Seriously, how do you get that into the stadium? I mean, this is professional stuff. It's rock climbing ropes. I don't know how you get that in the stadium. I guess they don't want to jump on the field, so you touchdown pass can do. I guess you don't want to jump on the field, so you dangle from the raft. I don't know.
That's impressive.
What goes on in some people's heads just
it's incredible. That's amazing. Well, what do you say we cut it loose here for this first episode? I think it was pretty successful.
Off topic there with the breaking news.
Well, that's the beauty of a live show, man. It happens. That's what it's all about.
So I guess to kind of finish up our point, I think I think an undefeated Memphis gets into the playoffs, and I think an undefeated Houston gets you into a New Year's Day bowl. I don't think undefeated Houston gets you into the playoffs, but I think it's going to be interesting down the stretch. You have a lot of these teams playing each other, and I think it's going to make for I tell you some interesting Saturdays leading into the holiday season. And I think it's going to be a fun bowl week and a fun bowl series, and conference tournaments should be interesting. And I think it's going to be compelling to watch for sure.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun because I guarantee things are going to be much different the next time we record this show. So
when is that going to be, Chris? Let's get our audience, the three people, our two wives and one of our fathers probably that are watching this.
Hey, it's why it's all about promotion, man. We just got to promote the living hell out of this thing.
What's our schedule going to be here?
Well, you know what? Maybe if we can try and shoot for this weekend if possible. I don't know. I know Thursday night I'll be at the Bengals game, so maybe Friday. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, we can. I don't know. What works for you?
Well, I think if we try to set a Monday Thursday schedule, and if we don't have to record this Thursday, but maybe we have our pilot run this week, we prepare and kind of start going full time next week on Mondays and Thursdays. I think that would be a pretty fun route to go. So that everyone knows,
I'm with you.
Mondays and Thursdays at what we go 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. Eastern on Mondays and Thursdays. You get to see our beautiful mugs.
Well, that's true. You know what? The thing is, I work at Dick's Sporting Goods too. So I don't know if you know that. I picked up a little second job. So yeah. So I'll know my schedule ahead of time. But you know what I will do is, as soon as I know my schedule, I will get that out there, and we'll get this fair. We'll definitely try. If we don't get 2 episodes a week, we'll definitely get once a week. Obviously our goal is to get 2 out there. I think that 2 would be much better.
Mm-hmm.
What about this week? Are you able to do it at all either Friday or Saturday?
Early on Friday, we have a top 5 matchup going on at Goggin Ice Arena Friday night.
Bam, that's what I like to hear. I was baiting you into that.
But that's late. That's late night. That's late night happy hour on Friday night at 10 p.m. start.
Whew, there we go. Well, then you know what? Let's
we'll get a schedule together. Does that work?
Make sure you check us out on Twitter. You can find me at I am Chris Asbrock.
You might start a new Twitter account, right? A show Twitter account.
Well, that's the thing. We could easily do that. I mean, we could. I'm trying to think here because you know what? Well, let's take. Let's leave it to the listeners and the viewers on picking our new show name. You think that's a good idea?
Sure, but let's be honest, folks. Let's be kind here. We're too novice at this. We're just trying to do this for a good time and to get our takes out. So, don't beat us up too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for constructive criticism, but not like crucifixion. I mean, it's, it is what it is, and we've never, like I said, we've never done this before. I've podcasted numerous times. We've done a couple shows, but the whole video aspect of where we get to see our, these beautiful mugs here, it's a whole new ballgame for us. But
I have seen the YouTube world in the comment section, and they.
Oh, you can get murdered, man. It's pretty. But hey, that just shows we've made it. That's how I'll look at it.
Is that what it is?
That's how I'll perceive it that way. I'll swing it to that.
We'll come up with a show Twitter account.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, definitely follow me on Twitter. Follow Scott on Twitter. Again, I am Chris Asbrock. I post a lot of stuff throughout the day. I give sports takes, everything like that. Scott, what's your Twitter handle? You there? I mean, I see you. Like, did you really freeze? Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. Well, that's the beauty of technology. Okay, well, I was gonna say you were frozen there for a while. It looked like you were just straight.
I'm watching to see if Andrew Luck throws his third interception.
Oh, okay, well there you go. No, let's get back to what's your Twitter handle? How can people engage with you on a daily basis?
I don't really tweet very much, so you can't. You're not really gonna engage with me on Twitter, so it's probably best we'll do that through the show Twitter handle.
Okay,
I'm not really big into social media.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, okay, that works. Well,
that's more your aspect, Chris.
Well, that's where I'll take control of that then. Okay. Again, check out my Twitter account. I also have a Facebook page for like my blogger aspect of everything. So, but again, make sure you check out the blog FTIsports.blogspot.com. That's where I post. That's where I'll be posting these along with my YouTube page. Chris Asbrock, look that up. You'll be able to find all these shows are going to be on there as well. I'm going to post some polls. I think I got a poll up there right now about like which level of football do you like the most. I've had some interesting talks with people at work and stuff like that. Some like the NFL, some like college, high school, whatever it is. But make sure you check out the blog. That's where you guys can comment on everything. Tell us how we're doing. Comment on the YouTube page as well. We're gonna try and we want to do this more often. Trying, that's the key. I mean, we basically what it comes down to is Scott and I, we love sports. Hey, we just want to get it out there, and the more more viewers, the more listeners, the better. Let us know how we're doing. That's what it's all about. Be nice. Like I said, don't crucify us. This is something we've just started today. So
absolutely.
Just keep it respectful. That's all we ask. But yeah, just again, check out the blog, check us out on Twitter, and like I said, we'll be back. Hopefully, we're gonna try and do another one this week. If not, definitely next week we'll be right back into it again. Hopefully, we're gonna try and get it because I think we've kind of figured this thing out, but I don't know. But I know we can engage with some listeners and stuff like that. Well, I'm just saying it may be something that we may figure it out. I don't know. So we got a lot of stuff we got to work on, which we got to figure out a name. We got a lot on our plate here still, but So with that being said, hey, thank you guys for checking this out. We'll definitely be back for the next next couple weeks and everything like that, and keep this thing rolling. So thank you, Scott, for joining me, and glad we were able to do this, and we'll definitely be keeping it going, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Have a good night.
Hey, guys, take care. Thank you, guys.